If you've been on a SIBO diet or a similar low FODMAP diet for a while, you might be feeling quite stuck in terms of how to reintroduce foods. And it can be quite scary because then you become worried about your symptoms flaring up. And it's just really hard to know where to begin with those kind of things. And people, I find, just go on these diets and then you stay on the diet for a really long time, sometimes years, just through not really knowing what the next steps are. And that can be very unhelpful because you can end up with a lot of nutritional deficiencies, and that really hinders your health journey. I'm a nutritional therapist, and I'm going to show you a really simple method that I use with my clients to test and reintroduce foods. And also done you a little symptom food tracker as a free PDF. So just have a look at the link below in the description box.
So you can forget about the need to use expensive food sensitivity tests, as they tend to confuse everybody and they're not always accurate or helpful if you have something like SIBO, which stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and which is a common cause of IBS. I call my simple method the 3x3 rule. So firstly, you need to have reached a reasonable baseline level in terms of symptoms. This is the point where your symptoms have subsided enough for you to notice flare-ups. If you're having a lot of symptoms that vary a lot day to day, then you're not ready to reintroduce foods. It's a bit like there's too much noise, like a huge out of tune orchestra, and you just can't hear any single instrument. So, in the same way with gut symptoms, you can't decipher which foods create problems and which ones are okay. If you've been on the diet for more than 4 weeks without much improvement, I would strongly suggest here that you continue with the diet for a little longer, but work with a practitioner such as myself to understand what's perpetuating your symptoms. Because you don't want to be on this kind of diet for too long, as I've said before. As I suggested in my previous related video, and there's a link to that video in the description box below, it's worth getting a SIBO breath test done at the beginning of your health journey, just to take out the guesswork and just get a good idea of what's actually going on. And so when you're choosing a food to test, I usually ask my clients, what are you really craving? What have you been missing? And there's an important reason for doing this, because if you're on a restrictive diet, you can feel really deprived and it can be quite demoralizing. Then it's very, very easy to fall off the wagon when you feel like you can't eat anything you enjoy. The caveat here is that you have to avoid the big triggers. And for most people, I find this is carbohydrate heavy foods, and grains are included in that. Fermented foods, so kefir, kombucha, kimchi, all those, and especially garlic and onions, they are the worst. So avoid those for sure. So here's my guide, the 3x3 rule. So let's use blueberries as an example. And so here you have day one, just have a moderate amount of whatever you're testing. So these blueberries, we're going to do 1 tablespoon of blueberries 3 times a day. So once for breakfast, once for lunch, and once for dinner. If you're unsure about which relatively safe foods you can test and in terms of what quantities to use, then I would recommend using Dr. Narala Jacobi's biphasic diet, which I use with clients. And I'll put a link in. You can buy that diet from her website, or you can contact me and I can advise you on that. So, back to the testing. If you find that you're experiencing symptoms at any point on day one, then you know that your body is just not ready for that food. So, you put that to one side, wait a few days, and maybe about 3 days, and then you can test something else once your symptoms have died down again. But if that's not the case and you have no reaction, then you can proceed to day two. Do exactly the same again, and then the same for day three. If you find that you feel okay, then you know you can safely reintroduce that food. And I've included the food symptom tracker in the link in the description box as a PDF you can download.
So I hope that helps. I really want to say don't stop there though, because it's very, very important to know that you can't really overcome these kind of gut issues like SIBO or IBS just through diet alone. You absolutely have to address the underlying causes, whatever's triggered the problems in the first place and what's perpetuating them. So you also need to do some real foundational work to do with general gut health, and that's what I covered in my previous video, and I'll put a link in the description box for that below as well. And that foundational work, I've summed it up to 3 steps, and that's 1, gut healing, 2, build your microbiome, and 3, boost your motility. Those are all really important basics to start with any kind of gut health condition. So if you need any help, please contact me. You can do it via my website or message me here. And I do free calls, or you can book a consultation. I've got supplements on my website as well, and some meal plans that I've created. If you're still there, thank you for listening.